Hello and welcome back to more The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last time we came back to trial for the second case of the game, and it was not, this case is not going very well. Like, it's not with the dregs of stuff from Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, but it's not getting very high marks so far, I gotta say. I've been trying my damnedest to find something here that I can enjoy, but it's not going so well in that department. But, you know, we still have one more episode to bring it all together and hopefully be salvaged, at least in some capacity. So let's see how that goes. February 23rd, 11:32 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Joyful, jubilant, jumping, jacks. Great way to start off the episode. Oh, Mr. Natsume, I'm so pleased for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire and non-locum judicial assistant Mr. Miko Taba Esquire S. Now, finally, at long last, I can be proof that I'm innocent, and prove that my D is innocent. What a lovely way to begin the episode with the first thing that happens is Siki does his little alliteration speech. Then Airlock Sholmes teleports into the scene with his stupid cat getup, which I dressed him up in, so that's on me, but still. Good morning, my dear fellows. Airlock Sholmes, may you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent. I thought that he was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came! How wonderful! And the room there's certain spots in the room that are a decidedly different color now that I've said that. Please, save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's very nearly time for luncheon. Yeah, that was the first thing to come to my head. You said good morning when it's 11:32 a.m. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, actually, believe it or not, that was a thought in my head, but it was immediately shoved aside due to other things that are currently on my mind, such as why the hell you're here. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought. Tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. The only support you could be here for is moral support, and even that you fail colossally at. So you probably would have been better for everyone else if you just stayed at home anyway. Such spirited determination has a beauty all of its own, is it not? Oh, yes! And then I began to muse on that thought, I think. No, don't skip, can I please open up the history? Please stop doing your animation. Then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep, I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It's so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter? You are just the height of wit. Oh, yes. You know, I think it's just because I've seen this so many times before. Like, picture Airlock Sholmes as Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, and picture Susato as the people who defend Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. You just see them, like, I've seen this so many times before, where people are just desperately clinging to anything they can to try to defend the thing they love. Just like, oh, yeah, what an astute observation, she said, like, desperately trying to convince herself. Otherwise, I've seen this thing so many times before, in so many instances in my life, so I see what's happening here. Upon which realization, I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. Why would you? And you think you're going to be of any use whatsoever when you're running on no sleep. Trust me, I having spent a full several 24-hour periods during which I did nothing but edit Danganronpa 3, I can assure you, I am of no use to anybody when I am running on zero sleep after 24. I can work on very little sleep, but not no sleep. It doesn't work, and for you need like 12 hours of sleep a day. And the results. My first night I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Oh, who could have guessed it? Shocking. And so the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. I'm an idiot. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential, and you had to run an experiment to test this. Because you're very smart. I think most of us probably knew that already. What others we suppose I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is a scientific method. Oh my god, And yes, one more thing. Do you remember this? Ah! Yes, of course. It's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task as the bottle was near empty, but such inconvenience do not hinder Sholmes. Yeah, because you've never been hindered by anything in the past, so why stop now? I managed to confirm that it contains strychnine. So I was right. Perhaps, though of course such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now. Wait a minute, if you just got here, how do you even know that we're accusing her? Okay. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended. That's just life advice. Just without context, that statement works as life advice. Who? Oh, you. Gregson, how good of you to come. Forget it, excuse me. Alright, he just slided off the screen. Wait a minute, Inspector! And back in he slides. I don't wish to make a nuisance of myself. From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself. My dear Inspector, please, speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, my life would be a whole lot simpler for me. Yeah, Gregson speaks the truth for all of us. Do you have the results, Inspector, of the investigation in Mr. Shamspeare's room? Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. No, I'm here about something else. A dead convict, actually. Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shamspeare's room? A man by the name of, yes, Selden. I went through the archives of the yard and dug out the fellow's file. There's something in there that, well, it caught my eye. Something caught your eye? What, Inspector, what? I've copied out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it for yourself. Thank you. I like how everyone always has encyclopedic knowledge of exactly what will be relevant for a case that hasn't even properly begun to trial yet. It's always fascinating. Scotland Yard's file about the convicted criminal Selden that includes a newspaper article about him dying of illness in prison. Okay, investigative findings relate to Selden. 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder. Jesus. Died of natural causes whilst imprisoned. His final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. The estimated £1,000 worth of loot he stole remains unrecovered. Interesting. Condemned criminal dies of natural causes in prison. Manchester's Strangeways prison. Strangeways, huh? Announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the earlier hours this morning. He had been suffering with fever since the end of October. Okay. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. Alrighty then. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Useful. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though? Because I read the script ahead of time, and trust me, you're gonna need it. Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion. Oh, Scotland Yard's working just so wonderful! Yeah, because you definitely won't be doubling back on these principles in the 5th case of the first game. I forgot you're here. Indeed, my dear fellows, and the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A shining diamond in the rough, maybe. Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. The plot is now allowed to continue. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way into the courtroom at once. Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest in the public gallery. Not nodding off at all. Certainly not. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Mustache in floods of tears, personally, so the best of luck to you. Welcome to Mr. Narrator Esquire. Yes, Mr. Natsume? It's time, isn't it? Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspeare. This is going to be the final battle. Thank God. I am very ready for this case. I don't know if you can tell. I'm very, very ready for this case to end. I won't really have saved Soseki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Ryunosuke. You have to. February 23rd, 12:30 p.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again now. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense, namely that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago was the true perpetrator of this incident. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. A rather cold assessment from the honourable British prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zieks, is the new witness present and ready to take the stand? Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in. Oh, this should be fun. Okay, you brought your easel to... Okay. This should be fun. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please. William Shamspeare, my liege, for mine occupation I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied. Currently unemployed, in other words. I'm Olive Green, I'm a fledgling artist.
Well, no, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit that she has no talent, I suppose.
You know, I had sympathy for you in a couple episodes ago, but now that you're probably going to be revealed to be the murderer, I'm starting to lose that sympathy. Also currently unemployed, in other words. What a coterie. Mr. Shampeare.
My lord, I am the humble servant.
I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant, intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you.
I would for naught else, my lord.
And Miss Green,
Yes?
you are aware of the reason you have been summoned to the courtroom today, I presume?
Yes, the officer did explain.
Alright, that's pretty cool.
He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon.
And? You accept the charge, Miss Green?
I don't know anything about poisoning, and I don't know anything about this man.
Come, lady! Die! To live! Verily I know not thy prickly, pea-pigmented person. Can you speak normally for 5 seconds, please? Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair.
It's all very strange indeed. I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It so happens that I passed by the neighborhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night that this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital fighting for my life.
Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Gooded household. Oh, trust me, I need not be reminded of this. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days.
I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other irrelevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green. At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Mr. Shampeare's lodgings is the Briarwood incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened.
Oh, no! The incident 6 days ago? You mean you want me to relive that awful accident?
Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day, and of course, we'll be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shampeare.
Huh?
But what happened 6 days ago? It has nothing to do with me being poisoned, but judging by your reaction, I'd say that's a buttload of lies. Let us proceed, then. The witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court. On the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road the evening of the 17th of February, I will also provide a free Shakespearean to English dictionary for everyone in the gallery so that you could actually understand what the hell he's talking about. The evening of February 17th.
It was 6 days ago, about 5 p.m. when I was walking along in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back.
Just thinking about the logistics of that case, I just don't even... Okay.
Coincidentally, it happened...
Okay, maybe don't brush your face with the... Okay.
It happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case had their lodgings.
I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakest, for I had bespoke my supper.
It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all.
I'm assuming that little matter is going to end up being the meeting she had with the random unspecified letter mailer. So I'm gonna need some more details on that. Yes, a second incident inside a week, which what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One could only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence. Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shampeare? 'Twas the following morning I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Marry, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above mine. When Saseki, San was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. As suspected, there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. It's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure. There's something lurking in the shadows here, I feel certain of it, and this is my one and only chance to expose it! Counsel, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish. Yes, my lord, if you wish. Yeah, obviously we're gonna do that. Okay. Cross-examination. Once again, no blatant contradictions, but we do have a little theory as to what exactly you might be talking about right here. What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate.
It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning.
Yes, it clearly is. If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital.
Ah.
It was related to the card you were holding. Jerry. Didn't need to be reminded of what happened to Jerry. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I like how there was just no justice for Jerry whatsoever. Like, he was just chilling, minding his own thing, and then he just died by the poison and no one cared. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross.
What does that matter? There's nothing to do with
excuse me? Excuse me. Mr. Shampeare, do you have something to share with the court? To be or not to be? That is the question. Just shoot me now. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's word springeth from within me with... Oh, I can't. You have no idea how excited I am to get done. There's like 6 reasons that I am so ready to be done with this case. He accounts for at least 3 of those reasons. Don't tell me it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? There's that invisible armband moving up again. Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps?
well, nay, sire, it was nothing at all.
Presumably you know the name, though, Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house.
I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging be a lonely occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in that room just 1 floor above yours? Miss Green.
Me, my lord? Have I done something wrong?
The card that was mentioned before containing the note, do you have it upon your person?
I do.
Conveniently.
But I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really.
Yeah, I don't actually know why you held... I mean, plot-wise, I know why you held on to it, but I don't really think that you would have had a reason to hold on to it, personally. Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please. Okay, well... a note in an envelope that seems to have been ripped open rather roughly. Oh, I didn't even... Did we see that did I miss that? Okay, if we saw this, not yesterday, but in the last investigation, did she show us the envelope and I just missed this? Because if we did, then apparently I just wasn't paying attention. I don't think she actually showed us the envelope, because I feel like if we did, I probably would have noticed it. But that's so there's the link right there that she knows that she is at least in some way connected, because we saw the other end of the torn off corner of the envelope in their room. So there's the link. I'm pretty sure that we didn't actually see the envelope until now, because I feel like if we had seen it, I would have called it out previously. It's Duncan Ross. Oh, continue with the testimony, please, Miss Green. Okay, well, before we do anything else, can we actually read what the note says in detail? Maybe. Well, I guess we'll have to examine it first. The envelope has been ripped open rather carelessly. Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that. Ah.
What is it?
The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen that exact same shape somewhere else.
Oh, you don't mean... Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up.
They go together perfectly! This torn-off end of the envelope clearly belongs with this card!
Okay, but I wanted to read the note, I didn't really... Okay. I mean, I kind of just wanted to read the note. I wasn't... Can I not open up the... I guess I can't open up the note. Alright. You know what, I didn't want to read it anyway. So there. I didn't even want to read it anyway. So how about that? Okay, well, where do you say... Oh, wait, hold on, I think I went... is this where you say... Or is that the tavern on the eve of which... We seriously need a dictionary. We need a Shakespeare to English dictionary, I swear to God. Right, let's just go one at a time. A tavern, you say? Which one? 'Twas the Slug and Salad where I did oh, the Slug and... Wasn't that? I'm pretty sure that was the... Pretty sure. I mean, I'd love to be able to read... Do we have it somewhere? I don't think we did. Was that not... I'm pretty sure that was the place that she said that she was going, right? I'm fairly certain that's the place. And a little unexpected, I feel. What do you mean, Lord Van Zeeks? The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room.
It's true. The menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water in different levels of cloudiness.
I would have expected Grub's Grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. How is this in any way appropriate for you to be bringing up right now? Water is soup and mushy peas. Or rather, soupy water and pea-like mush. Like, literally what the... I feel like that the further into these games I get, the more I don't like Van Zeeks. All equally appetizing.
I just wanted to try some water at a different pub for once. What's wrong with that?
How different can water really be? Try some different brands of water and you'll see for yourself.
Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment.
Agreed. The fact that on that day of all days, he dined at a place he wouldn't normally, it does stand out. So Mr. Shampspeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence. Of course we have evidence. Unless I'm just completely misremembering, I'm pretty sure the Slug and Salad is the place that she said she had to go to, in which case, there's yet another link right there.
Yes, sire?
On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place that you don't normally patronize? For a very particular reason?
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakest.
Alright, so, you don't want to be talking about purpose as you prance up and down like a bunny rabbit with no purpose. Very well, I will present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be the Slug and Salad on that day, namely, Miss Green's card. I believe this card reveals the answer. I will say, I think they should probably let you actually read the note, because we may have been able to remember that the Slug and Salad was the restaurant in question, but I'm guessing that a fair majority of players would prefer to have all the information in the court record so that they can, like, scan through all the pieces of evidence one by one should they need to. But if you didn't remember the Slug and Salad was the restaurant in question, you would have no way to check, because I tried to examine the... Okay, no, I for a split second, it appeared as a different... For, like, a split second, I thought I saw a non-checkmarked, cursor, but yeah. So we try to examine the note, but we can't actually read what it says, so if you don't store down your memory, you'll have no idea. Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean? That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of the utmost importance. Mr. Shampeare, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Duh. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shampeare? Well...
Excuse me, can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green.
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this, I mean, does it?
Well, I mean, we found a piece of the envelope that was containing the letter in his apartment, so... Or in his lodging, so... Well, you think so, yes, but it's hardly...
My lord, may I?
May you what, Miss Green?
I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well, then. You may amend your testimony to include details about the peculiar note. Alright, what do you have to say? This note was delivered to me at my address, nothing to do. That's wrong, because we found a piece of envelope in his lodgings. The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address, and upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yes, I did. It's terrible.
And yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn off end of an envelope.
Oh, is it?
And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note that you received.
Well, where did you find that?
In Mr. Shampeare's room.
What? In my room?
Mr. Shampeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere?
Well...
Your actions that afternoon follow the instructions in the note to this letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. And so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shampeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green.
What did I do?
Where do we begin? As this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shampeare's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession?
I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist after all.
There is only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shampeare's room and stole it.
You did what? Sorry, that has to what?
Finally the facade's breaking. Yeah, just let's keep whittling him down and finally he'll be able to start talking like a normal human being again. What on earth do you want with me? Getting there, just a little bit further, and then he'll finally break out of his stupid Shampeare persona. It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again. Miss Green, Kindly stop painting before I shove that brush up your rear end. Whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure for the suffering you have endured in recent events. Anyone found to be giving false testimony in this court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind.
Yes, I know.
Very well, then, witnesses. You will give full testimony again now, on the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received. Alright, we're getting there. We're getting there. Witness testimonies. The anomaly of the note. I do remember now, 'twas a week ago, peradventure, that note was delivered unto me. On the day writ therein, I did tarry a long hour. Just shut up and tell me. It's just such, like, I get that of its time, it was, the way in which, you know, people, like that, I get that the dialogues of its time, but it's not, it's been a long-ass time since Shakespeare's plays were in the limelight, so trying to retroactively read them with the way in which humans currently talk to one another, it's like trying to read cavemen drawings. It doesn't, you can't. I really hate Shakespeare. I'm just so goddamn sick of it. I thought for sure that when I was done with high school that I'd never have to see this shit again, but sure enough, here we are in the future, and here it's coming back to haunt me in the form of Ace Attorney of all things. Thereafter all the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow. I didn't see the note had vanished.
I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you?
Well, evidently, since you had a bottle of poison in your room, I think I might have a bit of an idea as to what you thought what you were trying to do. But that's just a theory. A green theory. Thanks for listening to my abhorrent pun. You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shampeare? Faith, 'tis so, my lord, and I would swear to have set it upon the table in my humble lodgings. Yet, 'tis clear to me now that since I have returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it. Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear that your testimony was...
A lie? Is that what you think?
I beg your pardon?
I'm just a fledgling artist.
Yeah, fledgling artists don't lie, but it's impeccable logic.
That note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know who the liar around here is.
If that's true, Miss Green, then how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question... I don't see why I should explain... Because you're on the witness stand. Sorry?
I'm a fledgling artist.
That doesn't matter. Why do you think that's not an... oh my god. Why do you think that your occupation prohibits you from telling the truth? Literally does not matter whatsoever what occupation you have. Which I know sounds odd since they asked you what your occupation is at the start of the witness testimony. But whatever. Point being... You are not immune. You are not immune to us questioning you and demanding that you tell us the truth because you are on the witness stand where you are sworn to tell the truth.
It's your job to give the explanation and the proofs. You, the fledgling lawyer,
which we can't do if you don't testify. What do you think you're? Oh my god, the fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth. Well, counsel, I'm ready, my lord. Very well then. The defense will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses.
Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shampeare's room. There can be no question of that, and that's how she acquired the note.
Yes, two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this, and it's not a pretty one. Okay. So are we heading toward the final showdown? I'm hoping so. Let's hope this is the final testimony. Okay, the anomaly of the note. Well, first things first, you say, why would you sneak into his room? Here's an explanation for you.
Objection.
Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle, and though the contents spilled during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained.
Ah!
According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes's chemistry set. The liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shampeare?
What?
Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shampeare's room with poison. Can this be? You broke into my room to... It may seem incredible to this court, but from the remaining clues, there is only one logical conclusion that we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shampeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green!
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie.
Me! Oh, great. Now she's dead. She's been crushed by her own easel. Oh, that's not... Why are you... That... Okay. She appeared to have been standing on her head, or resting upside down on her head there. Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of the gas pipe with intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But if Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to that pipe the very next evening as expected, the attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely? Well, that's a very good point. Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon? There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. Lord Van Zeeks!
And of course, the following morning there was more activity at Mr. Shampspeare's address. More activity? Ah, yes! You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder? That's right, and as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shampeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for a very sinister reason himself, to cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shampeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right! Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shampeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time. To make sure I wasn't home? Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing that she wouldn't be disturbed. You mean to say the letter was written by Miss Green? Yes. And in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. And just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room. Order, order. What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why would you try to kill me? Miss Green's motive should be obvious. Yeah, it's because of what happened to her husband. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So, that's what's behind all this. You will share your apparent understanding with the court, please. So wait, were they married or were they just engaged to be married? The love of Miss Green's life. Okay, so I think they were, because he said that he had to move into a crappier haunted place in order to afford the wedding. I don't know if they actually got married between then and now, or if they were just going to get married. But either way, my point still stands. It's all because of him, obviously. Duncan Ross. That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up the residence in the lodgings of Mr. Gavadebs, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross. I knew I'd heard the name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague... of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such. Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shampeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple. Ah!
Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious jest, that's all people care about. If it's an interesting story, they want to know. It doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him.
Yep, that's That's how human beings work. They're what's the cool, hip, new, over-sensationalized thing that I can attach myself to and be like, whoa, dude, did you see that totally crazy news story? The next day. I don't remember what happened yesterday. My memory is not that sharp. I have no recollection of any crazy events that happened yesterday, because that is how most human beings function, and it's really goddamn annoying. You mean, here's an anecdote. When I was in middle school, there was someone I knew who literally, I think his mind, I think his memory might have actually reset every day. Where it's like, if someone pissed him off, or if he was pissing someone off, or if he was just like doing something that was just not very choice for kind words, doing something that wasn't very kind to the people, the next day would come out and it's like he just forgot all that happened yesterday and was acting like everything's totally normal. It's like, are all people just this dense and absent-minded where they just forget everything that happens? Like, because that's what she's saying, right? Is that, like, people, they attach themselves to whatever the new over-sensationalized, over-hyped thing is, and then the next day comes about and they just forget all about it and move right on to the next thing, because that's just how people work. So, there's my little rant for the day. Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiance. Okay, there it is, fiance. So I wasn't sure if they were actually married or if they were going to get married, but either way, my point still stands. Fiance? You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shampeare. But she's known exactly who you are all along, because you're her sworn enemy. The murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry. Marry? Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shampeare, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe? This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel? Each on different counts of murder? Yes, my lord, that's correct. Inhaling so deeply, it appears that my fledgling learned friend has taken a lungful of dubious gas that's causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shampeare have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against this man. Okay, well, you want a motive? You want a motive? How? Not the stupid card. You want a See, it appears like for a split second, it appears as a non-checkmarked cursor. I think that's what threw me off last time I opened it. You want a motive? Here's a motive for you. Investigative findings related to Selden. There is still 1,000 pounds worth of loot unaccounted for, which seems like something that someone who's already known to be chomping at the bit to steal gas might be interested in obtaining. That combined with the fact that, where does it say, okay, alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. So, the person that his final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. So, there's nothing in this report that explicitly states the name of the cellmate, but I don't think it's too big a leap to assume that it's probably going to end up being Shampeare, because if that's the case, then what ends up happening is, Selden tells his cellmate, hey, I got 1,000 pounds of loot. Here's where you can find it. And then he told him, hey, go to my apartment and you'll find my treasure. But then what happens is that Duncan Ross moves in there because of the timing of his marriage to Olive Green, because they needed a less expensive apartment to live in, which I don't even know that tracks, because you could just move into one of your current houses and just cut your rent in half, whatever. So there's that. So then he can't move into that exact room where the treasure's probably buried, so he moves into a different one in the same building. So then he tries to get Duncan Ross out of there by blowing into the pipe. There's the apartment free. He wants to move there, but no, he can't, because then Mr. Natsume moves in there, and then the hits just keep on coming, because he keeps trying to weed him out, try to get into that room, try to get his hands on the loot. So you want your motive? Here it is. Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. I don't intend to admit to anything either. Miss Green? I'm sure you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason? I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. Sorry? You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. All vileness or villainy or tyranny or rotundity of woman. But in any case, wherever I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock. That whole place is falling apart. The locks and the doors are no different.
Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door, with some terps and a piece of wire. Oh awfulness! Oh awfulness! Oh tyranny! Oh profanity of women!
We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed.
Well, I spotted the note that I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it I discovered a secret hiding place.
Yes, we also discovered that hiding place.
Inside we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Ah, yes, well the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty.
What? There was something in it?
Yes. This rather nice key.
Okay. Okay, so now let me amend my theory. He told him, in my room is a box that contains the treasure. Take my key, go get the 1,000 pounds and take care of it. That's probably what happened, and that's why he needs to get into the room, because that's where it's located. Yep, okay, there we go. There's the answer. There's the final answer we need.
What are you doing with that?
What the?
Every ounce of color is drained from his face. Give it here! Give it to me now! It's mine! I inherited it!
What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. Yep, there we go. What's all this about? He inherited that key?
It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back this minute! Give it to me!
Calm yourself, witness. So Mr. Shampeare had tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shampeare at first, but considering everything that we now know, I think there is actually something that could explain it. What? I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal, everything we've seen and heard, but specifically only the piece of evidence that we just obtained at the beginning of this trial episode, because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events. In that case, counsel, I must demand that you present evidence at the court in support of your claim. What is it that you could say can explain the motivation? That would be this right here. Take that! That's an official police report, is it not? The Selden file? How did you get a hold of that? Gregson gave it to me. Selden? The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room. Well, yes, we know this, certainly. A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries. I see. And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The some 1,000 pounds worth of loot that he stole, which as yet remains to be found. Ah, yes, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in this file here. 1,000 pounds lost en route to hell. That's how the papers summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key.
Ah, you mean that key is...
Mr. Shampeare, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not?
What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you, a false charge.
The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in this file, but a simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is.
Ugh.
But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings because if the treasure was in the room and then he had to get into it himself? Is there only one explanation for that, my lord? It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So, it all comes out. Yes, having established that, all of Mr. Shampeare's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garrett's lodgings in the hope of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice. Because Selden's old room has already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shampeare subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room, and when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it. Mr. Saseki Natsume. So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shampeare? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple and avaricious reason. To get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. You... One down, one to go. Listen, I want you to have me loot. Oh wait, no, this would be Selden, okay. Hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me, is the key to take it. Always one step ahead, mate. See you in L, I guess, Shampeare. Gotta keep one jump ahead of the breadline, one swing ahead of the sword. He steals whatever he can afford. And that's everything. What did he just say? It's mine. That loot is mine. Are we finally speaking normally now? No, we are not doing that. We are doing it's decidedly opposite of that. It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? Oh, after all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove that I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I forgot they were even here. If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close. I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I just give up? There's no question in my mind now that this man is guilty through and through. But he seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid that however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him. No! He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot, which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan, were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed. Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule. If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. Alright, here's an idea. If you want to try to figure out where it's hidden, why don't we just use the same thing we used in the 2 episodes ago, where we sprayed Airlock Shrooms' stupid little spray bottle around for luminol testing, and then we can figure out where it will be most likely for it to have been hidden. How's that for an idea? I can't believe Airlock Shrooms is going to save the day, but it seems like a pretty foolproof idea to me. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle, but I think we might have it in our possession already. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. Yes, we do. Still raising our hands, huh? My lord! Yes, counsel? The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue to its whereabouts. Well, he does the dance of victory. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth the gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then. Very well then, counsel. Let the court hear your idea. What do you propose we can use in order to... I can't believe I had to say it, but let's do the old Airlock Shrooms technique. Take that! If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shampeare's handprints on the wall of his lodgings. That's right, my lord. Exposes the result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective Mr. Sholmes, definitely with no help from Iris whatsoever. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Yes, it is, actually. Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shampeare. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere, when nobody wants him, anywhere. What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts on the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long, and I see your complexion has worsened since last we met. Mr. Sholmes! He does know Lord Van Zeeks, then. Well enough to say something like that in any case. Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, we know better, and we know you're full of shit. That does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit. If I may admit, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already. Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities.
Ah,
You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding, elementary, my dear Wilson. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Thank you for the offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what is now Saseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate... okay, well then why don't we use the key? We will need something of Seldon's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something that convict owner happens to be... Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, your powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. So, which particular person do you have in mind? From whom can we obtain a position of the late convict Seldon to create the indicator solution? That would be Miss Olive Green.
Take that!
Miss Green!
me? What do you want with me?
The key around your neck, if you please.
Sorry?
That key belongs to Seldon. There will be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface that we can use. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out exactly what Seldon touched in the room that he used to rent. Mr. Shampeare, as one great to another, I assure you. If the late convict's haul is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes. So, Mr. Shampeare, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Seldon's stolen wealth.
In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No! Give that key to me! The detective shan't have it!
It's over, Mr. Shampeare.
No.
You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt. What? Don't even say it. Oh, dear. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, God, no, of course. Oh, dear God almighty. Great, he's dead. We killed him. Congratulations. Mission accomplished. The world is a better place now. That was an extravagant finale.
I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room, that's all.
So you'd have the time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods? Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room.
I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused.
Why?
I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing.
Mr. Gavadeb really has had a lot to put up with.
And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then, this Japanese man swooped in at just the right moment to sign the new lease. Poor Mr. Natsume, what unfortunate timing.
That's just the Cloud of Kokoro cases in a nutshell. It's just unfortunate timing.
And 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance, but it wasn't to be.
No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day.
And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books. I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot.
Which is why, on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove in his room. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you into a deadly trap.
William Shampeare, how does it go? To be or not to be? That is the question.
From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Why does everyone have such an encyclopedic knowledge of freaking Shakespeare plays?
Well, let me tell you in your case. It's not to be. That's the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done.
She's not getting off scot-free, is she? Because she did try to kill him. You tried to kill him. You don't...
At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation that night before Duncan died.
The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply. The stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse. Alright then, if it's that important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There are spare rooms in my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? I better not. We said we'd wait till we graduate before we told our parents, remember? What? Wait, hold on. Okay. So my problem with this from the start was, why the hell? Okay, so their plan was, we're getting married, but we don't, we want to spend a lot of money on the wedding itself, but we don't have the funds to do so. So I'll move into a crappy lodging that apparently is haunted with very terrible accommodations, so that we can, the money I save on lodgings can be spent on the wedding. But that doesn't make any sense, because the obvious solution you should have implemented is simply, oh, so if we want to do that, then why don't we just only stay in one apartment, the two of us together in one apartment, and then we save money. So we literally save an entire apartment's worth of rent by only staying in one apartment. I don't know why that wasn't the plan from the beginning. Turns out, there are spare rooms in my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? I'd better not. We said we'd wait until we graduated before we told our parents, remember? What the hell do you mean? Okay, so the implication there is that she's living with her parents right now, correct? Because if she's not, then it doesn't make any sense as to why he wouldn't want to stay with her, because the only way it would be implicit that him staying with her would result in her parents finding out is if she's living in the same house as her parents, which I don't even get. So I mean, it's like, it's not impossible, I suppose, because like, I guess if her college is like right next to her house, I guess it's not impossible. But I don't know, man. Don't you think her parents would have showed up to the hospital if they were actually nearby? Like, this doesn't. I don't get this. I don't. How could they not? Does she not have a ring? Like an engagement ring that her parents would see? This doesn't. I don't think this tracks. I really don't. This doesn't. There's no. Oh my god. Like, this whole case would have been avoided from the get-go if they just lived in the same apartment together. I don't. Would she not have been staying on camp? The thing is, it's like, it's not impossible. That's the thing, is it's not an impossibility that they chose to stay separately. It's just moronic that they did, and it allows this case to. Anyway, so I guess that's how that happened, apparently.
If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted to left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school. Something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw a stooped Eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up to the road to grab for some food, so I followed him, and set myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup, and started to pick a quarrel with a publican. That place is cursed, I tell you. Cursed. The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked, no problem there. It's like I'm the problem. But how could that be? Duncan was gone, and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse?
What? So you just... She just so happened to stumble... Let me read that again. Something kept drawing back to the house on Briar Road. Sure. Something just kept drawing you back to the place where your husband died. I'm sure you're just jumping into the bed to go visit there. And she just so happened to bump into Soseki-san, which is how she was able to find out about the... That's the thing, man. Like, something like Turnabout Succession or Turnabout Serenade or Turnabout Corner... They're just broken. They don't make any sense. Like, they fall apart of the scenes from every logical perspective, and the case's mystery themselves does not function properly. That's not what this is. Like, this all runs logically. It all makes sense how the gas pipes work, and the motives for people to do things, and all the different ways in which, like, the letter links up with the method for stealing gas, and all those. That all links together logically. The problem is that it all runs together, and the reason why this is all allowed to happen is because of just sheer coincidence, constantly. It's just... I don't... it's weak. It's really weak. I'll give my final thoughts on the case as a whole when we're done here.
A rumor I'd heard about how the gas companies go around investigating the gas installations. A rumor? You mean? Yeah, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes.
How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework.
That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind. That just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End.
A black market?
I'd never been. I just heard people talk about them, and you really can buy anything you think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or the other. Was Duncan's death an accident, or was it murder?
And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with.
Wait a minute. Actually, wait a minute. Hold it a second. So she just... Why did she have the bottle of poison on her in the hot... Like, that's what I don't understand. This is the one part that I can't wrap my head around. So, the way we're expected to believe this is that she was stabbed in the back with the knife through sheer bullshit. And then she was brought to the hospital and was asleep was unconscious for 3 days. But when she woke up, she was surrounded by her easel, all her art supplies, and apparently a bottle of poison. Why did she have that on her person? Like, I don't... Also, would they not have... Because I'm sure, certainly they would have had to, like, take it off of her person when they brought her in for surgery. They didn't notice that something was wrong there. If Mr. Shampeare was innocent, nothing would come of what you've done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly. I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shampeare, and then I wrote in this little note. If he'd done it, I knew that would worry him enough so we'd be sure to go. I waited to see if it worked.
And of course, Mr. Shampeare followed instructions to the letter.
It worked out with the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of the poison I brought all around the mouth of the pipe. All the time praying that the devil's work wouldn't be done and that it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and that the culprit would get his just desserts.
Okay, well... For a second I was worried that they were actually going to let her get away with this, and that only Shampeare would be punished, because that would be nonsense if that were the case. Well, that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. "3 days ago, when you were first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward.
Yes, my lord.
I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that we should subsequently find lurking behind the scenes.
It has been a long road, my Nipponi's friend.
Oh, yes.
And one I certainly didn't envision walking with you.
Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green,
Yes, my lord.
you will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shampeare.
Yes, I know.
And you, Mr. Shampeare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Seki Natsume here present.
Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes?
Yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friend stopped me from
Ending your life by drinking what was left in the poison bottle?
I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what that was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems.
Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Mr. Green.
Oh,
And I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shampeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least.
because of you, I chose life, not death, and now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green.
Mr. Saseki Natsume,
Yes, my lord.
the court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant not guilty. Oh, it's finally over. Okay. I'm gonna wait until the case properly ends to give my final thoughts on it. But good lord, that was a mess. That was one big old mess. Court is adjourned. Okay. February 23rd, 3:24 p.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber.
Oh, yes, yes, at last. Divine justice, duly done.
Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there was any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache. This man, I can't. There's a time and a place for mucking around, and this is not one of those times.
Now, this has nothing to do with my mustache.
Some say that a luxuriant mustache
Is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes. Legitimate Naruto Esquire, once again, you saved me from doom.
I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days.
I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books.
You've had such a difficult time, haven't you?
Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not?
You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding from me behind the wall of fog.
My dear fellow, there is nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences.
Yes, I think you're right. I finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live.
Well said, I've come to feel the same way.
I made a decision too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan.
What? I mean, I don't know, if I were him, I don't know that I want to stop those eyes. I can't. Just the little subtle quivering animation in their eyes. I can't. It's just like an instant. It's just like an instant add water sort of heart melting kind of thing. Anyway, so Saseki-san, I don't know, if I were him, I probably wouldn't want to stick around here any longer either.
Just want to become friends here in England. What a terrible shame.
Well, I have great news for you, Sato. You'll see him pretty shortly, and once you go back to Japan as well.
Oh, I know. That does tug on my heartstrings. It really does.
I don't know how it couldn't when you see those eyes.
But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and want to write something on my own. Novels, I suppose.
Oh my! So you'll be creating your own literature, Mrs. Natsume? How wonderful!
Oh, well, no. I mean, I want to pursue the college literature.
Why not? One that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache.
I suppose you're right. Yes, it will in a way be literature, but as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur.
I, for one, would love to read your work.
Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper.
Ah, that's very true.
And there is no salvation for the person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor.
The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand.
My goodness, yes! Faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure.
But that's not why I'm leaving. I mean it.
Okay, random objection, I suppose. Interesting. And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Saseki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikotaba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Susato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well. That's the other thing. What in the hell about this case could possibly have been so goddamn important that they had to pull Susato out of the game? Like, I'm trying to think. I got nothing. I got absolutely the only thing I can think is that it's gotta have something to do with the money, right? Because that's the only lingering question we have, is what the hell is the circumstance surrounding Selden's burglaries and what exactly he stole and all that. That's the only thing I can think of. Because other than that, what exactly about this? Unless he just wanted to get her away from anything Shakespeare related, which I totally understand. I don't know what the hell they could possibly have needed to pull her away for. On the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill, which is just, I don't even, that's very manipulative, I gotta say. Like, she can clearly keep a secret, so I don't think, you really didn't need to lie to her, because, like, if I was Susato, and I got that letter, because didn't they say it was a 50-day trip back to Japan from where they were? If I were her and I got that letter, I would, like, my mind would not be at rest for the next month and a half. The only thing I'd be able to think is constantly, like, is my father gonna die? Is he gonna live? What's going on with him? I'd just be constantly on edge and anxious the entire ride home, wondering if he was gonna be alive when I got there. Only to show up and be like, oh yeah, he's fine, lol, get pranked, haha, April Fools. It's like, you're not very kind, are you? Like, clearly she's capable of keeping a secret. So I don't think you needed to actually lie to her in order to get her to come back. Okay. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day. The day that we uncovered the day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings. Are we gonna see that, or are we gonna skip to the next case? Okay, so we are gonna see this. February 24th, 10:13 a.m. Mr. Natsume's room.
Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you! To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day.
Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes? As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Still eating the fish and chips.
Grexy's been happily munching an agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley.
Happily? I think perhaps humorlessly might be closer to the truth.
So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place on the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot? Let us look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's hole. What is that? Huh. It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge, though. And I'm assuming that's blood on the inside?
And look at all the gemstones set in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth 1,000 pounds. Perhaps I could have it as a belt.
Oh, have you noticed on the inside there? There are some dark stains.
You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. In this game, never.
On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt.
There are jokes to be... Nope, not going down that rabbit hole.
Then of course there's the emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown.
What does it signify, do you think?
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know? Where could it have been?
That's enough of that, I think. What's the matter, Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, aren't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely in a lock and key. You know, for as absent-minded as you are in literally everything, you know a lot more than you're letting on, and I'm not liking it.
Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over now.
Okay. I'd never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly looks to be extremely valuable. But that's not what that's not what stood out to me the most. At least not once I noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of that collar, those stains. Could they really have been blood? Knowing this game, I can say with almost absolute confidence that it must be.
Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now.
And you look very pleased, Iris. Despite having no role in it whatsoever.
I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating.
You're talking about the latest installment of the Adventures of Airlock Sholmes, I presume.
The mystery of the knife in the mist and the mustache man in the convict's curse, perhaps. I can make it a two-part story.
Oh, I can't wait.
A word, please, Iris.
Yes? What is it, Hurley?
I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question.
What? Why not? It's a great case.
I get that you weren't even around for any of it, Iris, but it was not a great case. It was so far from being a great case, it's not even funny. Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your 2 titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear?
Yes.
Great, you just broke her heart. Great job, Sholmes.
And so it was that the second of Souseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity.
I forgot this game had voice acting, I'll be honest.
Now, looking back, I feel I understand.
We haven't heard anyone talk, because I've been told that there's no anime cutscenes in this game. It's just straight up, like, the models doing their things. So, we haven't heard anyone speak since the first, which I know, it's like, what, since the first case? But it's the second case. I know it's only the second case and it's been the first case, but, like, they don't usually talk during... It's very rare that they talk outside of cutscenes, so it's just weird to see.
I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again. With an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
Okay. Interesting. You have my intrigue. That case was not great, but you do have my intrigue. The key of knowledge. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm very interested to see what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen with that collar? Because that's clearly blood on the inside. There's unless they had a ketchup party, there's nothing else that could possibly be. So there's that. I don't know who or what it belongs to, or what the significance of that logo is. If I've seen it before and I forgot, then I'll just be happily surprised when it gets revealed. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens in the next case. However, this case was a big pile of doo-doo. So, alright, so first things first, the first trial sucked. Admittedly, most of it was because of the gameplay itself, like the game not working properly. Whether it be because I pitted 2 juror statements against each other, despite and the game said nah, despite the fact that they very clearly should have said yes. But the most frustrating one was the fact that I presented the bar of soap, which we already examined. Excuse me, sorry, because earlier in the case we examined it, and it was like, hey, look, there's more to this bar of soap than meets the eye with a little circle there. So I'm like, alright, we have that in our arsenal now, so that I used the information to be able to present the bar of soap later, but it still didn't accept it, and I had to re-examine it a second time, which doesn't make any sense at all. So that didn't work. Shampeare just sucks. He's just a terrible person and a terrible witness, and I hated listening to him speak with every fiber of my being. So, big reason why I didn't like this case. The jury. Jesus Christ, the jury. Like, there's always been a problem in these games, by which I mean the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles so far, where the jury is just comprised of the most insanely relevant people ever, despite the fact that they're supposed to be drawn by random luck, and should have, in theory, no relevance to the case whatsoever. Every single trial so far has had at least one person who, without their presence, the case would not have been resolved in the manner that it did. That is unacceptable. That is insanity. The sheer amount of luck that would be required for that to occur. So I hate the fact that the jury just gets lucky every time. The fact that they even brought back most of the jury members from the last case at all doesn't make any sense, because the whole point is they're supposed to be unbiased, because either way it doesn't work. Either you have a jury that because the whole point is like, hey, same defendant from the last case, so we'll bring back the same jury as well. The reason why that doesn't work is because on one side it's like, oh, we saw him last time. He was acquitted. He must be innocent this time, and then they're biased in that direction. On the other side, it's like, hey, wait, he's accused of another attempted murder, and did he get away with it last time? This scoundrel played us all for fools. Let's declare him guilty immediately. So either way, they'd be biased in one direction or the other, which is completely going counter to the idea of what the jury's supposed to be in the first place. So there's that. Is the fact that the prosecution's entire case is literally based on nothing. Because they're trying to say that Soseki-san would have poisoned the victim, despite the fact that they literally couldn't even prove there was any poison in the teacup whatsoever. So, I don't know how the hell they ever got that case to trial, because it would have been based on literally nothing. Speaking of the poison method, the gas just... Why the hell did we spend so much goddamn time? Like, I understand why they had to spend so much time in the last episode talking about random gas nonsense forever, because obviously they had to do that in order for us to naturally be led to the conclusion that the gas is actually how the victim was poisoned. But that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no reason, because it'd be one thing if the jurors were like, hey, here's an idea, maybe the gas is what happened, and that was their assumption, and that's why they brought it up to try to say that Soseki-san was not guilty. But no, they were declaring him guilty, and then just randomly, when prompted to explain why they thought he was guilty, it just went on some random-ass tangent about gas for no goddamn reason at all. It was the most bafflingly jarring thing I've ever seen in this game so far. It was just bizarre beyond all belief. I don't understand what the hell happened there. There's also the part with the slug and salad thing. This is a bit of a minor one, but if you didn't remember that the slug and salad was the restaurant in question, you had no way to check that whatsoever, so that was a kind of a guesswork. The fact that she had that poison bottle on her in the hospital at all isn't, like, even if you say, oh, well, I guess he was just walking back after setting up the poison in his apartment, so that's why she had it on her person. I don't believe that the hospital wouldn't have inspected it, because they would have had the bottle. They'd be like, hey, what's this thing? They would have seen something was wrong there. Not even, and on top of that, the fact that that she had it on her person when she got knocked out, it just links back to just punches another hole in the fourth case of the first game, because the only reason why she was knocked out of the life in the first place is because due to a series of insanely unlikely events and sheer happenstance. So no matter how you roll the dice, no matter how you slice it, this doesn't function. And then another thing, I don't even understand what their thought process was for why they moved into two different apartments. Like, they should have just moved into the same apartment so that they would have been able to cut their rent in half, and then this whole problem would have been alleviated in the first place. Oh, man. Like, I'm intrigued to see what happens next, but this case was just a slog. Like, I don't even, because at least with something like the fourth case of the first game, at least then it's like you're interested in how this all went down until the final moments when it's revealed that none of it makes any sense. So at least it had my interest up until that point. This case really never had my interest. I was just constantly in a state of just like waiting for it to be over kind of thing. So I don't know, because without a shadow of a doubt, this case worse in the second game, fourth case of the first game worse in the first game. I don't know what it is about the Cloud Kokoro cases, but those just did not stick the landing at all. So, I was a bit let down by this case. But here's hoping that cases 3 through 5 will be amazing and they'll blow me away. With that said, that'll be it for now. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time. We'll hope to catch you. Sorry that I got this episode up a bit later, but I promised I'd get them up. I promised I'd get both episodes up today, so whether it was later or in the day or not, I wanted to make sure I got them both out, so sorry about the delay. But tomorrow we'll be back with the start of the third case of the game, and then it'll be one video a day moving forward from here on out. So that'll be it for now. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time. We'll catch you all tomorrow for some more of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Goodbye.